Hey there, listeners. Well, this weekend's Ironman 70.3 World Championship is happening in Taupo, New Zealand. That's right here, and it showcases the grit, preparation, and resilience of elite athletes, qualities that mirror the essence of effective leadership. So let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Welcome to the Ask Denis episode. This is a freestyle episode where I'm asked a question by our listeners or I share my thoughts, experiences, and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. Well, g'day, listeners. It's great to have you here with me on this Ask Denis episode. And you know what? This week has been very busy as we're getting to the end of the year, the end of the calendar year. It's been awesome. I've actually had a 12-day holiday with the family and had a great time in Australia and also in Asia, and now I'm back here in New Zealand as well. But you know what? I've actually had a great time. So one day we did 3 group coaching sessions with different leaders from 2 different organizations. Also today, strategized, in other words, when I'm recording this, that we actually did I did a strategy planning workshop with an organization in preparing for them to thrive in 2025 and 2026 and 2027. And it was fantastic work to work with them to get them to start thinking bigger, start thinking about where they want to go and getting a lot of laser focus. And then the next couple of days, they're going to be spending time actually networking, but also doing one-on-one coaching with various leaders here in New Zealand. Well, as I said in my introduction, this weekend in Taupo, New Zealand, that's a massive lake that's in the middle of the North Island. New Zealand has the North Island and South Island, and it's in the middle of the North Island. And it's the center stage as it hosts the prestigious Ironman 70.3 World Championship. So athletes from around the globe have been arriving in New Zealand. And these athletes are gearing up to push their limits in one of the most challenging endurance races. Here it is, a 1.9 kilometer swim. Now, it's a lake, right? So it's going to be pretty awesome. That's approximately about 1.18 miles for those who are maybe not having kilometers in their part of the world. And then followed by a 90-kilometer bike ride. That's approximately about 55.92 miles. And then to finish it off, a 21.1 kilometer run. That's approximately 13.11 miles for someone to bring it along. Now, among these elite competitors or athletes that are actually assembling here in New Zealand and preparing this week to race on the weekend, there are 2 exceptional individuals I've had the pleasure of speaking with as my guests on the Leadership is Changing podcast. From episode 500, Rhonda Viteri is here in New Zealand, and Nick Johnson from episode 374. Rhonda has come in from the United States and Nick has come in from Asia. And I've worked with Rhonda and her global team a few years back, and we've been very good friends, and it's been great just to stay in touch with Rhonda, but it's a real privilege to have both of them here in our country. Both of them have actually earned, in other words, they've qualified their places on the world stage this weekend. And as we speak, and as already said, they are here in Taupo already preparing for their races. Now, their stories are not just about athletic excellence. They're about mindset, discipline, and leadership in action. Preparation is the key to high performance. Competing in the Ironman it's no joke. It's a serious event. And it requires a level of preparation, focus, and resilience that most people can only dream of. So athletes like Rhonda and Nick don't leave anything to chance. They plan every detail and execute with precision. In fact, Rhonda and I have been texting with each other throughout the week as well and just checking in to see how she's going. And she's sharing with me about some of her preparations that she's doing. Amazing. Nick messaging me over the last couple of days as he's leaving Asia to get into New Zealand and just give me a heads up. But both of them already are like, wow, this is a beautiful country. Listeners, if you don't live in New Zealand and you've never been to New Zealand, hey, come to New Zealand because it's an awesome country and it'd be great to see you here. So here's how high-performance athletes prepare, and it's a powerful reminder of what leaders need to do in their own lives. Number one is fine-tuning the engine. So if you think about a car and you fine-tune it, so then it actually will run a lot better. So in the final days before the race, it's all about tapering, pulling back on the intense training to let the body recover and store energy for the big day. Now, leaders, take note. Rest and recovery aren't signs of weakness. They are essential to have a strong performance. Now, be smart about it. I think that if leaders are actually taking time out to rest and recover, that is a smart leader who's preparing to fine-tune the engine. Number two is mental rehearsal. Athletes visualize every part of the race, from the swim to the bike and then onto the run. They see themselves overcoming challenges and crossing the finish line. As leaders, we need to visualize success too. Now, whether that's nailing a big presentation or achieving a strategic goal, they are things that we also need to visualize. Number three is fueling the right way. Nutrition is a game changer. Look, athletes are very particular and very, very strong in the way that they plan and what they eat, they drink, and knowing it can make or break their performance. Now, leaders, you too need to fuel yourselves. And it's not just with food, but it also could be with learning, inspiration, right time team dynamics, but also some positive stuff into the 6 inches, as I call it, between your ears, and the words, the mindset. Number four is prioritizing recovery. Now, this is an interesting one here too, because the best athletes know that recovery is as important as the training. So things like massages, light movement, the quality sleep can keep them in top form. So for leaders, recovery might look like taking a step back to reflect, maybe some time out to recharge, or things that you need to delegate so then you're not being burnt out. As I said earlier on in the opening of this episode today, I've taken 12 days out to spend time with family and just really recover and recharge. And I took time out to reflect about things and start preparing for a massive year in 2025. And so it's really important that we prioritize the recovery. In fact, I was swimming 3 times a day, so I was in the water, and when I'm in the water, I get that energy. I said that in the previous Ask Dennis episode too. The other thing is I had 3 massages, and it was just great to have the massages and helping the body recover. Number 5 is building a winning mindset. See, the Ironman races are as much as mental as they are physical. So mental toughness is a big thing that a lot of the athletes will actually face. So they stay focused, they're adaptable and resilient, even when things go wrong. And this is leadership in action as well, right? So staying calm, under pressure, and finding a way forward no matter what is happening. The leadership parallel of preparing like an athlete, how does it work? What is it like? Because you see, when you watch athletes preparing for a world-class event like this one that I've been talking about, it reminds me of how leaders need to approach their roles. Now, whether it's preparing for the day, the week, or the month ahead, success doesn't just happen It's planned, it's executed, and you will refine or tweak by learning and doing things better going forward. So here are the key takeaways for leaders. Number one, always set clear goals. Just like the athletes aim to beat their personal bests, leaders need a clear vision of what success looks like for themselves and their team. I would say this to you, leaders. You need to define it, you need to communicate it, and then you need to chase it. That's an interesting terminology what I've just used there. Define it, communicate it, and then chase it. And go for it, and don't hold back. The second thing here is this, is plan your week like a pro, like a professional. As I said earlier on, athletes don't wing it. They map out every training session, every rest day, race day strategy, the food they eat, the things they drink. They are planning everything like a pro. So leaders can do the same by carving out time to plan, prioritize, and then start to set themselves up for success. Number 3 is invest in yourself. So high-performing athletes, they know that looking after themselves isn't optional. In fact, it's critical. So leaders, you can't pour, now get this, you can't pour from an empty cup. In other words, if your energy levels, your physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional energy tanks are empty, you can't pour from those tanks. So what you need to do is prioritize your well-being so you can lead with energy and focus. I have been doing this over the last 10 weeks where I've been really starting to prioritize my well-being, the things that I eat, the things that I drink. In fact, I haven't actually had a coffee for 10 weeks, and I used to have 2 or 3 a day. And so I'm not having any more at this stage, right? And I'm just feel great. Actually, I find I've got a whole lot more focus and I have a whole lot more energy as well. Number 4 is embrace challenges. So the endurance athletes, what they do is they expect the unexpected, whether it's something like bad weather or equipment issues or tough competition. The competition this weekend is going to be real tough. Now, leaders, we face similar unpredictable things, right? Things that start to happen in front of us. Headwinds, change of markets, people not well, people not turning up, people not performing. There's all sorts of things that actually might happen. But you know what? We as leaders must adapt. We have to pivot. We have to keep moving forward while we're also trying to do things on a daily basis. Hey, listeners, number 5 is lean on your team. Even in an individual race, athletes rely on their coaches, their mentors, and their support networks. Leaders, you don't have to go it alone, right? You don't have to do it alone. Build a team that shares your vision and supports your mission. Well, the race is ahead. It's going to happen this weekend. As Rhonda and Nick prepare to dive into the crystal clear waters of Lake Taupo, then they're going to hit the bike course and then power through the run. They are embodying the principles of leadership, preparation, resilience, and this unrelenting drive to be their best. I'm going to say this, listeners, to Rhonda and Nick, I wish you both the very best as you take on this incredible challenge. Your journey inspires not just athletes, but it inspires leaders worldwide. I've been talking to people this week about you both, about Rhonda and Nick being in the country and qualifying for this. And you see, the people that I've been talking to, they're listeners of the podcast, and they've actually listened to those episodes. And for some of them in particular of late, they've been listening to episode 500 with Rhonda Viteri, the lost art of accountability. And so they're like, wow, and they're so excited about what she can do. And Rhonda and I have talked about the match fit, being match ready, and all that sort of stuff in the episode. So if you haven't heard those 2 episodes with myself and Nick, I think it'll be a really quite cool idea that you actually go ahead and do it, right? So if you can listen to those episodes, please go ahead and do it. So Rhonda Viteri is from episode 500 and Nick Johnson is from episode 374. And to the rest of us, well, let's take a lesson from this weekend's event. Whether we're racing for a finish line or leading through a tough quarter, preparing for the year end, and preparation is everything. It is the number one thing you need to do. Preparing is what helps high performance. So leaders, show up, stay focused, and be deliberate in your approach to success. Taupo is ready. My question to you listeners is, are you? Hey, well, your call to action this week is to ask yourself, are you ready to be that high-performing leader? And then maybe you want to start putting those things that I've talked about into action. The other call to action is to download the 10 proven ways to lead and thrive in today's world. Look, this is an executive guide that I've created based on interviews that I've done with leaders around the world. It gives you 10 main themes, but it also gives you 42 strategic insights. Now, listeners, that's it for this episode. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining me on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.